Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast. Okay, wait a minute, let me think of something. Two tech industry veterans discussing global issues through the lens of thick glasses. No?
Well, I think saying who we are, I was going to say, like, it could be called What Michael and Ivanka Think About Nearly Everything. It's like this morning, no, mine was this morning, was I was all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on my outdoor runs. I was like, podcast which celebrates the planet and the survival of all species or something, but it is Climate XR Week.
Two tech industry veterans discussing how wonderful the planet is on a weekly basis and just fighting a fight to defend it. I don't care about why I've got sucked into this planet thing.
Two tech industry veterans discussing what they think about things and persuading Michael to care about the planet.
Stuff like that. And Michael being my name, and therapy. It's therapy, and my name is Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
So this week, I don't know what that will be edited down to something very short, or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it's cute to leave all the blunders in. This week, we're going to talk about waste. It's fun, isn't it? That sounds gross. So what made you want to talk about rubbish, Ivanka, this week? Not that we ever talk about anything else.
What made me want to talk about rubbish was I was supposed to go to an event last night to talk about rubbish husbandry on the island of Brach. But
well, I don't know what Nick would say about that. Good joke, Michael. Good one. Because husbandry can also mean the person you're married to.
But
do you get it?
But it was cancelled. The event was cancelled at the very last minute, and so, which was also a waste of my time, because I had gone down to the library. I thought, I know this lot. They tend to cancel things at the last minute. I'll just walk over and check the poster, and sure as nuts, there was a big. The date was crossed through. There was another woman there, and she goes, what is this? I checked the poster today and it said tonight. And I was like, well, welcome to Sutivan. So that's
flaked.
But waste, there's lots of waste everywhere. Rubbish. People keep giving my child Kinder eggs. It's
oh God.
And that is a waste.
So there's all the rubbish and the waste, but then there's also, like, companies seem to think that increasing efficiencies is the way to do things well, and to ad absurdum, really. And I'd like to talk about how it's actually good to be wasteful sometimes. It's good to not be efficient, and we've talked about it before, but it's good to try and remember that efficiency isn't the be all and end all.
No. There's also things that are just like a complete waste of energy, like being really cross about things. Yeah, that's a waste of
emotional
waste. Food waste. There's physical things, there's emotional things, there's virtual things. I think in digital people don't talk enough about waste. They might talk about the devices, but actually there's loads of code that's just spent hours of people's lives to write things that no one wants to use or does anything and works badly.
So much of the code I've written in my life as a contractor or an employee has just gone to nothing. And even if it gets used, it gets thrown away after 6 months or a year, a lot of the time. So, what a waste of time.
Just waste.
So with that, let's... I did have another point, but with that, let's just play the music. How are you, Ivanka?
I'm very well, thank you, Michael.
I'm very well, thank you, Michael.
Thank you for asking.
Thanks for asking.
I've had a lovely 10-kilometre outdoor run this morning. Well, it wasn't really a run, it was a run-walk. Because yesterday I tried...
What's the weather like?
Very nice. Early.
Is it nice?
It's very nice.
Is it warm?
It's low 20s, blue sky. The tangerines are nearly ready on the trees in the garden. So my daughter and I had like 20 minutes yesterday of just eating slightly sour tangerines, going. let's just try this one. Oh no, that was.
It's kind of like. I'm jealous now because it's kind of gone to winter now. It's dark in the morning when I go out, and it's like 6:30. 10 to 7 gym run, which I did this morning, but it's like dark. Although it wasn't too cold today, but
it was
like 2 degrees one day last week.
Oh, we're not there yet.
Crazy.
It's dark here in the morning now, but it's not cold. Despite what my neighbour said this morning, 'cause Nick and I were going for a run in our shorts and t-shirt, and she goes, "Oh, look at you two advertising summer in the middle of winter." I was like, "What?"
Middle of winter.
Okay. How are you,
cool.
Michael?
So, well, congratulations on your run.
Thank you.
We're already on me. Okay, cool. It's going to be a quick intro. I've got some notes this morning. I'll tell a couple of stories. One, I was in Superdrug the other day buying some things, and it was 3 for 2. Basically, I'm so used to like whip phone out contactless payment. I accidentally like put it down for like a 230 quid payment without looking at it when it was supposed to be like £2 or £8 or something, and then he was like going, "Oh, cancel," because he'd written 30 instead of 3. And I was like, "Oh, this efficiency sometimes it's a problem. Got to be careful, especially now I've got this Apple Watch, which I've started you feel so cheesy doing it with the watch."
Do you know, I've never managed to pay with my Apple Watch because I never managed to do it, and then I just get flustered and embarrassed, and then I don't do it. Then I run away and go, here's some money. Sorry.
Yesterday, Sharon was on the neck. We bagged 2 adjacent self checkouts in Sainsbury's with the trolley between us. We used a little trolley, and when I came to her, I was like, "Sharon, hey, Shaz, look." She's like, "Whatever, idiot." Something about when you actually bought something that does make you like it more than when you just sort of like got it off a project where you're like, "This is stupid." Now it's like, "Yeah, but it's my stupid object." Stop looking at your watch all the time, Michael. I'm not. I'm just. Okay, so there's that. I went to a gig the other day as well, and it was. Sat down in this room and like. There was just nowhere to go, and it was like the lights were kind of up, and it was a smallish room. Sat down, and this sort of girl comes out with like this ukulele thing, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, I can't deal with a ukulele song right now." And then it was so much worse. It was just this really cheap guitar thing that was really out of tune that she was just strumming away on and playing. Like she had a strong voice, which was kind of like carrying it, but. This thing, I was just like, this is just unforgivable, and I can't go anywhere. Just being pinned down at a gig by social obligation for something that you're just not really up for. It's just like, why did I come out? Because it took me like 45 minutes on my bike to get there. And I get in, and it's like, don't ukulele me. Don't do it. I can't. So music, I went to a gig, and it was a washout. So
have you heard... I'm sorry to hear that, Michael. But that's me responding to what you just said.
Yeah,
but now I'm going to tell you my story. which is that. Have you listened to the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain ever?
No, I don't intend to.
You should. Racist. No, they're really, really good. You're just full of prejudice and prejudging.
You get it's going to be that.
No.
Blink, 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 blink. So I just didn't want it. I just didn't want to have to look someone in the eye as they did it in my face.
Anyway, Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain. People, Google it. It's good. Don't listen to Michael.
I want to be able to criticise stuff like that without feeling like I can do better. Like I have to. Why can't I just criticise something without feeling like I have to do better? Everyone else does.
That is a very interesting question. I've not thought about it. Just because I'm not good at this doesn't mean I can't tell you you're rubbish at it. Interesting.
It's like I know my singing isn't as good as yours, and like. But that doesn't mean I can't hate this.
I am playing on my ukulele 'cause I'm so f***ing cute. Listen to me playing on my ukulele. Put this f***ing song in your advert for bullshit.
Let's talk about waste.
Is that the end of your stories? Yeah. Unceremonious end of your stories.
There's some music, so that was the ceremony. The waste of time going to that bloody gig. That's what that was.
Let me. There was one thought I had this week. It's a bit late to tell you about it now, but maybe we can try for the next episode. So I was thinking it'd be much easier for me to listen to the draft episode if there wasn't swearing in it, because then I could have it playing when my daughter's around.
Okay. Well, I have started. I have started censoring it just because with that thought in mind. So the last one wouldn't have had any swearing in the draft, and I will. I'm just gonna. I'll just take out the swears unless they're really unnecessary. Okay. Unless they're swears that she can learn from.
So waste.
Waste.
Hang on.
It's your idea. You drive.
Yeah. You started it, Ivanka. You talk about waste.
You want to talk about rubbish?
And that's what I said.
Cool. Sounds good.
So, yes, lots of reasons to be talking about rubbish at the moment and waste in general.
You're always picking up rubbish and stuff, aren't you? So
yeah, I'm slightly obsessed. And I look at it all and I think I'd have much less rubbish to pick up if people just bought less crap. And certainly if they stopped buying my child Kinder eggs. So I'd like to start...
Yeah, demonisation of Kinder eggs. When's that? Why is that not mainstream yet?
I don't know. Kinder eggs, and then there's loads of other little eggs, all plastic, with stupid, pointless toys. Because Kinder eggs now, there's not a great deal to build in them. No, you have to make them and then QR code scan a thing and download an app. Right. I'm like, no, it's not nice chocolate, is it?
I mean, it's very sweet, yeah. So yeah, it's mostly sugar.
But,
yeah.
I mean, in the positive column, it's a very small amount of chocolate.
It is.
So therefore, if you want your child, I don't want my child to be the child that's not allowed sugar. So she is allowed bits of chocolate. So she has a bit of Kinder, and that's fine because it's not. At one point, this one neighbour was giving her blocks of chocolate, whole blocks of Milka. Yeah. It's like confiscating that, but.
Secretly eating it in the toilet.
Secretly eating all of it. I'm looking after you. I'm taking my parental duties very seriously. I'm protecting you from all this sugar. So in the positive column, Kinder eggs, not a lot of chocolate. So it's a little treat, not excessive. There is something to unwrap and there is something ish. There might be 3 separate items to stick together, possibly, if you're lucky. And now they want you to download an app as well as all that plastic. And there's even one type now that isn't even chocolate in the shape of an egg. Half of the egg is like kind of Nutella-ish thing with 2 balls of chocolate sitting in it. So you then get a plastic spoon to scoop out runny chocolate out of a plastic bowl.
Yeah,
I mean,
those things.
There's no need.
It's bizarre.
So I'm not sure how intellectual this episode is going to be.
Come to our Facebook for a poll on how much you want these to be intellectual.
So yes, Kinder eggs. I'd like to start. I've already put jet skis on my list of things that should be banned, but I'm going to add Kinder eggs, jet skis. I'm actually starting to post it now. Kinder eggs. I think there's lots of things like that just create more rubbish than they add value.
Well,
in the
there's this sort of like when I said that thing about like finishing your plate and food waste last week, I do think there's like, okay, where in the hierarchy we've got waste, but then we've got health.
Yeah.
Which I guess, I mean, is it like, so the Kinder Egg, the design of that is, okay, let's make kids eat less chocolate by giving them something to distract them with the chocolate. So it's like, does the health benefit like cancel out or to like pay off to some extent the waste, or do we have to? Do they have to? Can they come up with some alternative solution that doesn't, generate tons and tons of landfill? Like,
well, I think that waste health thing also comes into it with the like. I thought about this week. So I went to I shop in the local Lidl quite often, and because they have more organic stuff than some of the other supermarkets. So I go in there, though one of my German friends was like, oh, you don't shop at Lidl, do you? They're really bad to their staff. I was like, oh. Anyway, so I go...
you can win. You just can't win.
But then you've got this thing. Then you might not, but I have, because it's like, okay, so they sell organic yogurt in little pots.
Yeah.
But the non-organic yogurt in one big pot. So what's worse? Organic dairy in lots of little bits of plastic, or not organic dairy, probably farmed much more badly in less plastic. I don't know.
So do we need like one of these, these charts that are like a hexagon or whatever with like things on each corner. So it's like healthy, it's a good company,
like a spider diagram thing.
Unwastable. Yeah, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So we just need like a weekly badge that we can wear. Right, this week I was here but not here. Next week I was here, and just like your kind of ability to, you're just juggling these various forces, aren't you?
Constantly.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So, and then it's like with the veg. Same thing. Lidl are very good at stocking a lot of Croatian fruit and veg, which means that it hasn't travelled very far, but not much of it is organic. And so it's like, right, is it better?
I heard it's like you're comparing apples and oranges.
Exactly.
To
so
organic oranges. Or should you just eat your own horrible satsumas? Should you enjoy life?
I didn't say they were horrible.
Sounded a bit.
They're just not quite ripe yet. So they're a bit sour.
Okay.
But they're actually delicious.
All right. My dream is to have my own mango tree, which has enough mangoes for me to have daily mangoes from it. Maybe a mango orchard. Is it called an orchard if it's mangoes? I don't know what.
I don't know.
Can't live here. Maybe.
I don't know if you'd even then so. Because
notwithstanding that.
We have, obviously, fruit trees are seasonal. So even if you had mangoes, I'm not sure that you'd have mangoes all year round.
In my head, I had a freezer, right, when I was saying that.
Okay.
There was some in the freezer. Like, I am not completely...
You didn't specify,
I can't.
Michael.
No, I didn't. But in my head, I was thinking about the freezer. I was thinking, like, obviously they aren't going to grow all year round. But, like, obviously I do... Like, our rosemary is not... It's just... dead inside. It's just immediately, it's kind of browned from the inside, and like we've got random plants, but they're just not doing better than the weeds, and I just don't understand. I haven't got time to worry about these bloody things.
The other thing we have is lemons, which is making us use up all the gin we've had.
Do you know there's an increasing range of alcohol-free gins now, and we did buy a couple of bottles last year, but 20 quid a bottle for some mildly flavoured water is aromatic kind of flavour. It's not. Even though I've always said I thought just the ritual of the nice bottle and the just being treated like a grown up. You get it in a beautiful bottle and you get to pour it into your nice glasses and put lemon in and some ice for the gin and tonic. It doesn't feel like a smart purchase. It's just you really with the pretend gin and tonic. It really just I might as well just have a tonic water. Really,
so I'm gonna add alcohol-free gin to my list for you of things we don't need. In the world?
We don't know because it's the health trade-off. It's it goes on that health column. Let's be and also another trade-off is this. Okay, so flying is bad, going anywhere apparently is bad, but also I've got to have a mental health. My mental health matters, doesn't it? My sanity matters. My relaxing once in a while matters. So shouldn't I be allowed to sacrifice something toward that end sometimes? Sacrifice it.
Well, I was thinking about that again on my very inspiring.
Because the ideal way of preserving the planet is just to humans to disappear, but that's definitely not what we're after.
That's true. By planet we mean us as well.
Our environment, our ecosystem that supports us, our habitat. Sorry, is the word.
On the subject of flying versus travelling, I think Nick and my lifestyle has became less wasteful after our motorcycle trip, which. We flew a motorbike across the world and back again and then rode it 29,000 miles. That wasn't a particularly low carbon trip. I suppose it was in terms of distance and blah, blah, but still, it was 2 transatlantic flights. Well, 3 because a bike flew as well. But my point is that when you go off travelling and you see all the rubbish everywhere, everywhere, you sort of start going, plastic water bottles, yes or no, discuss. How do you know if you're wasting your time on something?
This is the privilege of the rich person. This is the privilege. This is the thing that I've made myself a little space to be allowed to waste some time and make a mistake. And if a mistake doesn't, as long as you learn from your mistakes, it wasn't a waste of time. As long as you learn from, but I don't know, is that what that's where my mind goes. But
It's and what is a waste of time? That is another interesting. It's what's your day? If, for example, you wrote a load of code for an app that then servers had to be spun up and it had to do all this stuff and it supported people, blah, 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 and people bought gadgets in order to play with your software and blah, blah, blah. So in those terms, lots of bad things happened. But you learned a lot. You made some friends. You earned some money that helped you do a thing. Is that what's a waste?
Yeah, and that just comes back fundamentally to regret anyway. And I just think about a terrible relationship that I still wouldn't change it because it is part of my. I learned a lot about myself from it, even though I would never want to do it again. It's trying to sort of rewrite history in your head is just a real good way to feel bad. But it's that ability to predict. But you were saying, can you tell if you're wasting your time? Often you feel like you are, and you don't realise that you weren't until you've got the benefit of hindsight. So it is really hard to tell. I
occasionally listen to this podcast called Audio Dharma, which just records a bunch of Buddhist talks given in California. Yeah. I used to listen to it a lot on the train. There's often a little meditation in there, but it's usually just talking on a topic with obviously a heavy Buddhist spin.
A heavy Buddhist.
Imagine a heavy Buddhist. And I listened to this episode the other evening about, it was sort of Climate Week related, but it's caring for the earth. But one of the things he talked about, because you talk about this idea that it's a waste of time changing our behaviour. It's not going to help. It's not going to. And so he talked about it in the context of A, you don't know, and B, if your one act affects one other person or a squirrel, because this is Buddhism, so all creatures are included, then it was worth doing, because there's I think there's
waves
propagating
throughout society. Yes. Like you and your head teacher and your March, you said she was to do that. Yes, I can,
exactly.
Plant those seeds. It's tough when you can't. Well, this is just to turn this back into something I care about rather than the environment, which is making stupid little rotating biscuits on Instagram right now.
I loved your stupid rotating biscuit on Instagram, though. I thought it was very cool.
Thank you. But it's so hard to you have this thing where I put something out, and I always talk about this. You put something out, feel no effect of it, and as you've rightly pointed out, it's hard because it's the internet, blah blah blah, and then you find out that some people did like it when you actually talk to them, even though they maybe didn't even. But then when loads of people are clicking like on it, you just lose. That just goes into the bin straight away of your brain and turns into the number. And but you feel like, and then I look at my Instagram followers, and I've been counting the hours of effort I've been putting into this thing, and then I look at my Instagram followers, and they're down by 7. As a result of all this effort, and I'm like, why am I doing this? It's so hard. It's so much work. And I guess it's just I'm looking at the wrong metric, if that's the thing I'm looking at. And someone liked it this morning that has a similar sort of feed, which has 18,000 followers. So that's given me a little bit of hope. So I looked at his hashtag. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get some people interested in this nonsense. I don't know.
I think two or three things I have to say.
Yeah.
One, I thought the biscuit was cool. Nick was like, "Oh, could Michael do something like that for the Bravos?" Yeah. And then then on the subject of numbers and the likes, I mean. It is not. I'm always a bit like, who cares how many followers, whatever. And then this week we had a really high number of downloads, and I was like, oh, look at us. Yeah. Look at us with that big number. And then Michael pointed out that actually if only 3 people binge listened to our back catalogue, we've probably hit that number.
Well, I said that, but that would be, they would need to make 100 hours to do that in 1 week, which... I mean, if 3 people made listening to our podcast a full-time job, I guess that's quite that's some dedicated listeners. But in terms of points and like money, likes, blah blah blah, I am going to shoehorn this in because we've been watching Succession and it's too good. It's just too good. Like the second series, it's just too good. It's the lives of these rich people that we're always talking about. But what you do notice is that even those people are obsessed with the stock, like the stock price. And it's exactly the same thing as Instagram likes. It's it's gone down by 3 points, but they turn it into this, Bloomberg terminal, universe of data, but it's exactly the same mentality as I want more Instagram followers. I want to be an influencer. Is it just human beings just obsessed with whether a number goes up or down? And a meaning, and it's so much more serious for these people where up and down means, I've just lost $20 billion because that number went down by half. It's when it's tied up in their wealth and their identity and their status. But it's exactly the same thing from the teenage Instagram wannabe influencer to the CEO of a global corporation. Have my likes gone up? It's exactly, and that's what it is. It's likes, the stock price. It's just like, how many likes have I got today? Anyway, I don't know if that ties into waste, but just watch Succession. It's so good. Like,
Well, I think it ties into waste. I'm going to shoehorn it into waste.
Do it.
No,
do
but
it,
I
do
think
it.
it ties into waste in terms of like what we spend our time doing and chasing and caring about, when actually the obsessively checking your phone, that all these things are just when you've got real humans in front of you that you might be talking to or enjoying, or there's that kind of element of it.
Yeah.
You know how obviously I haven't mentioned it yet. But this week Extinction Rebellion is shutting down London and a few other places, and one of the things they're talking about is that we can't have things staying the same as they are. We need system change, and the system change, you see, if all our basic needs were met, if we were in that scenario of universal basic income, then you could chase things for pleasure itself. You could make your singing biscuit.
Well, you could chase things for meaning itself, and the bullshit job situation that so many people are stuck in could just be short-circuited, I think. All those people could be putting all that intelligence, instead of into optimizing ad clicks, they could be putting it into in tidying up rubbish and removing waste from the ocean and so many things that are so much more important and would make them feel so much better than the job does at the moment. Like, I think it's just the answer to everything at the moment. So
but I don't know I don't know enough psychology, and maybe there's something to go off and look at later. It's like why we're so obsessed with these countings and graphs and rewards but I think it obviously answers some need, doesn't it, or some sort of.
And is it and but in the same way as the Instagram influencer must knows that this isn't real, or is it like the stockbroker must also know this isn't real,
it's made up.
But it's so compelling, but it
starts so early. Do you know? I don't know if as far as I know, my daughter's not managed on one of these things yet, but like when I was in infant school, there was the wall chart of stars.
Yeah.
And you gathered stars. And in schools now, the app that my sister's foster son has at school, they have, plus points and minus points. And she gets a notification when he gets a plus point and it's all points, isn't it?
Yeah.
You talk pretty early that, the more star, because I was obsessed with getting to the end of the star chart first before anyone else in class. I was very responsive to that. It does give you form of reward.
It does give you something to focus on, and that's it's like analytics. It gives you something to look at. Like, okay, we've got our podcast download number. That's something that we can look at and compare. Yeah. And it's the same way that the GDP has become this thing that everyone thinks is the most important thing in the world, because it's something you can look at and compare and look at year by year, even though it's based on completely made up stuff. So,
but what would be really nice in a given week of my life, because I love stats. I've got Wi-Fi scales. I've got,
oh my God, I'm tracking hardcore with this watch, and I've just noticed I've got a different watch for sleeping as the one that I wear in the day now.
Really?
Gym band.
Anyway, so you sort of track all these things, and I love it, but and it does. I do want to close my rings and all that kind of cheap gimmicks on the old but what would be nice, I think, for me is if I could set myself some like we were saying at the beginning of this, like some health points, and like my week is not a success. Okay, so maybe I don't know, the thing I'm looking at mostly at the moment is the analytics for Restaurants Brighton and Restaurants Brighton jobs. So it's like, yes, but I'm chasing that. But what if my week didn't count as a success if I hadn't also met some sort of health points target?
Yeah.
But then this is where it all can get very dark very quickly, because the Chinese are experimenting, as we talked about last week, this sort of social points. And if you haven't got enough, so you've got to be very careful what you let yourself measure.
And I do, I have my little, I have my values-based metrics that I look at on in my little browser tab app, and it's got like my health, family, altruism, YouTube series, learning stuff, Sharon, this podcast, how am I making the world better? Do I feel liked? Am I, when I'm on my holidays. It's like all that I kind of wrote out a big list of what I think is important, and now I have a little kind of score of how I'm doing on it. But then it's weird that the things that are at like 0, negative, infinity are the things that involve actual money at the moment. Like, have you sold any music? No. Have you got any YouTube are you getting anything from your YouTube thing? No. Like the stuff that even like, is actual money coming in. Like, are any real life points happening? And then you sort of look at those and go, okay, well, it's all very well that these other ones are hype. You do need that to be working for you as well. Unless I had universal basic income, in which case I could just delete those off there because I'd be like, well, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't even have to be on there, I don't think. In what we do, like when we are making tech stuff, software stuff, so not even like making hardware, like when you're making software, you're not really thinking about waste, but like a poorly written algorithm spun up on some server farm being used by thousands of people. There's a lot of energy going into that. Like I can fudge the keyboard on if it's a project that's popular enough, and suddenly that's an extra ton of coal. But we're so separated from it. We're so distant from it. And Douglas Rushkoff always talks about like the phone feels like this beautiful, clean, glass, smooth object, and you just plug it into the wall. You never think about how dirty the process of getting that energy into your slick, pristine device really is. And so it's hard to remember how much waste we are creating when we're insulated from it in that way.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where digital in general needs to take a lot. I did see one initiative online that I followed, but I've lost where it went to. But it was something about looking at servers and making sure that they're all, use renewable energy or something. There was some kind of initiative. And I know that Google does do the green hosting thing.
Like carbon neutral.
But they do the carbon neutral. But carbon neutral, But carbon neutral isn't enough, really.
No.
Like, it's like, if Ecosia can plant trees, do something more than just have no impact, number one. And secondly, even renewable or carbon neutral, like you say, it still doesn't need to just burn when it doesn't need to. It's like that the downside of the Bitcoin farms that we've talked about before is the carbon footprint of them because of all these. Because you don't think of a laptop or a PC or an iPad as some sort of like as a car.
No,
because it doesn't actually spit out any fumes.
Yeah,
but I think we are a bit. We are definitely responsible for a lot of consuming.
And certainly doing this podcast has made me turn off my shit at night in a way that I didn't really used to. But although it's lower than people might think, and there's a good Look Mum No Computer video actually where he kind of looks at the amp usage of all of the different pieces of equipment that he's got in his big studio, wires everywhere place, because I think he was just annoyed that he kept getting so many comments about like, oh, your electricity bill must be huge, and it's like, no, look, I'm comparing this to like this, and it's actually like way lower. I mean, it's heated stuff that literally just heats stuff up using electricity is always going to be much more, like wasteful. But like, why waste anything? Like, why tolerate anything? Like, why tolerate any unnecessary waste? And that's what I think I'm getting better at as a result of not being able to sweep it under the rug due to being judged by Ivanka every week. Yeah.
I mean, in her particular talk, she was referencing the TiVo box or whatever, that's sort of like, which I don't buy into anymore. I mean, do you really need to download anything to your house? when it can be burning on someone else's server.
Stream it from someone else's.
Not on my dollar. But you know, it's that sort of, there are a few things that we need. Like, I could switch off the power to the upstairs possibly at night, but there needs to be some light. Otherwise, my daughter freaks out and won't sleep.
Again, it's sort of insulated from like even how much electricity we're using. We don't really have an internal understanding of that without a good app. That, but like so my studio I can turn off at the wall and I'm in the habit of turning that off at the wall. But it's funny, like moving in with Sharon, and she's there's like night lights on all night, and I always was like, what does this need to be? But I mean, they're LEDs, aren't they?
Exactly.
And it's like we still have to feel okay. We still have to look after ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter has three night lights in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Because if there's not enough light, there's a sort of line of light where if it goes below a certain level, she just wakes up going, it's too dark. So, there's night lights. But, I mean, I think reduce it, like, you still have that health and happiness and mental health bit needs to still score.
It needs to be.
Because I need a night's sleep. I can't be woken up in the middle of the night by a child demanding light.
There's a lot of unnecessary waste, isn't there? So it's it seems unnecessary. It's like you've cooked too much and now you're throwing stuff away. Just don't cook too much. And then that's the predicting how much you're going to need and whether what you're doing is valid or like is going to be useful. Just to make it much harder for you to reply, like to take it back to the freedom that I currently have, the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to waste time and not punish myself over that, because it's all, I'm not going to know if it was a waste of time until I do it. Some waste looks unnecessary, but even though you don't use what you worked on, it was still necessary for you to get to the thing after it. Whereas some other kinds of waste where, I don't know, it's just designed in that you're going to waste materials or whatever, like that. Well, it's like you said in the first place, there is a sort of predictability, there is a understanding how much you're going to need in advance that is a skill that is difficult to hone. And if you don't really care, then it's not something you're going to focus on. Maybe.
No, maybe. I think there's I read this thing, a write-up of an event organised around Stella McCartney and Vogue and the fashion industry, talking about sustainability and climate change. And one of the things I walked away from it was this idea that, like, when will the health of the planet become sexy? Why does yet another new outfit or this season, oh, you can't possibly wear that. That was last season's colour, or, this kind of idea of fashion, which is designed entirely to create garments that might only be worn 5 or 6 times. When will the fashion industry as a whole has a big responsibility in shifting us away from thinking like that? So, people, you mentioned once that your in-laws' flat in Milan was, I don't know if it was on podcast or off, was designed by an architect like 30 years ago, and the design hasn't changed and they haven't changed it, but it was very well designed at that time when they moved into it, and there's no reason to change it. Quality does hold out. Yeah. Quality furniture, quality fixtures and fittings. I don't need to change the colour of my wallpaper for seasonal purposes or for the purposes of, I don't know, this year's trends. My house needs to be comfortable, warm. I need to feel happy within it. I need to feel like I'm safe. Yeah. And, if that shade of green isn't fashionable anymore, but I like it, then what is fashion? And then, so it's that. And
then the issue is that the stuff is when stuff wears out. Like in terms of clothes, it's like it wears out immediately. And this is, I mean, on one level, it's the cost of poverty thing again, isn't it? So like, you waste so much more if you can't afford to buy a good version of something, if you can't afford to do a quality. Like, that's the thing, is with anything, if you don't have the space to do a high quality job on something, you don't give yourself a little bit of extra time to do a good job, then you do waste a lot more, like, as time goes on, because you end up having to redo the whole thing, or buy a whole new pair of socks because the last one's just, the hole went through them almost straight away. And I think that's a principle that spans a lot of different, I want to say domains, but I can't think of a less nerdy term for it.
But I think, totally. But I think having something expire because it's no longer works and is no longer repairable is different to have something expire because it's no longer desirable. Trends happen in, like, it used to be bootleg jeans, and then it went to skinny jeans and all that kind of stuff. And
that's definitely, as men, we definitely don't have to deal with that kind of, like, no one's judging us for wearing jeans that are from 2 seasons ago. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
But there is that sort of like big shifts that suddenly what you're wearing looks like nobody wears bell-bottom trousers anymore or whatever. But I don't think I've ever been that fashionable. So a lot of things that I have, like, I buy them. I don't think I've ever been to. Of course, I've bought things that just don't work, or they don't work. But it tends to be not that I don't like them, that they just don't fit me, but they don't work for me properly. But I buy loads of things that I don't need, but that are nice. Like, when I say loads, I think I might be exaggerating slightly, but like, I've got a nice leather pencil case for when I go. For in my, because when I'm at work, I like taking out my nice leather pencil case when I go to someone's office and I'm doing some work. But I didn't necessarily need it, but I hope it will last a long time.
And there's a waste in buying something that you don't love.
There is, yeah. But that's why I
just buy another one, and then that one's just, Oh, now I've got 6 old pencil cases that are just going to go
they're
in the
all
ground.
horrible.
Well, they're going to be in my house when I die, and someone's going to have to deal with them, right? Like,
because I can't bring myself to throw them away, because that would be really bad for the world. Yeah, best just to hoard them in my house. Yeah, that's the other risky thing. It's like, I can't bring myself to throw this away because it's going to create landfill, but actually, it is rubbish. Yes. Bin it.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you like it, you can find out more on our website, grandpodcast.com, and there is a subscribe button there that you can click on your friends' phones and subscribe them. One a day, please. We need mindshare. Stat. Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter, basically.
Yes. You can find me at michaelforrestmusic.com. You know, I haven't even checked if all those Instagram things have been coming through. I haven't looked at my website for a while, but it auto updates. But yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Don't look at it now, Michael.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yes.
Because I'm having fun on there.
If you could write us some reviews, perhaps give us some stars, that kind of thing. That always goes down well with the algorithms.
Feed the
Let
algorithm.
the algorithms know that we are worth a listen.
Indeed.
And
Patreon.
That's the main.
Patreon.
Oh, you can do
The
Patreon.
Fancy Pants Wizard Man. If you're obsessed with stock prices and you've got access to a Bloomberg terminal, why the hell just not invest in us? Invest in us. You've got the money and you've got the big old presents.
Or donate to something and dedicate it to us.
No.
Then
I want the money.
give it to Michael. Give the money to us.
I need to. We need like I don't know. It's all
Go
about
and support.
It's all about being able to plan. It's all about being able to make plans beyond next week. This is the thing. So yeah, thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.